Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we're going to learn about IELTS speaking part 2. Our topic is describe a time you made a promise to someone. Describe a time you made a promise to someone. In this lesson, we are going to look at some questions and some sample answers. I'm also going to explain to you the vocabulary that I have used in the sample answers so that you can also use that vocabulary in your IELTS speaking test. I'm also going to give you a few tips to ensure that you know what the examiner is looking for while you're doing your IELTS speaking test. Now, let's begin with the questions. Describe a time you made a promise to someone. Describe a time you made a promise to someone. You should say A, when and who and to who you made the promise. B, what you promised. C, why you made the promise. And D, explain if the promise was easy to achieve. Let's begin with A, when and to who you made the promise. But before we do that, please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with other people so that you can help me to help them. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really encourages me to carry on uploading more videos. Thank you. So, in A, when and to who you made the promise. The key word is when and who in that question. When did you make the promise and to whom did you make the promise? Now you can answer that question by saying, last year in March, I made a promise to my mother on her 50th birthday. Last year in March, I made a promise to my mother on her 50th birthday. So that sample answer answers when, that was last year in March, and who, and that is my mother, and when it was on her 50th birthday. So last year in March, I made a promise to my mother on her 50th birthday. When it comes to birthdays, we usually say on her 20th birthday, on her 40th birthday, on her 30th birthday. I'm going to give my mother a present on her 30th birthday. So take note of that expression, on her 50th birthday. The preposition is on his 70th birthday. Remember to add the th at the end. B, what you promised. The key word here is what. What did you promise? Now you can answer that question by saying, I promised my mother that I was going to quit smoking after 10 years as a smoker. I promised my mother that I was going to quit smoking after 10 years as a smoker. So the promise that I made was that I was going to quit smoking after 10 years as a smoker. And I made that promise to my mother on her 50th birthday. And that was last year in March. So when it comes to stopping smoking, we say quit smoking. I want to quit smoking. That means I want to stop smoking. Okay? I want to stop smoking. And someone who smokes is a smoker. A smoker, that is someone who smokes. Now, let's move on to question C. Why you made the promise. Why you made the promise. The key word here is why. Why did you make the promise? So the examiner wants you to give some reasons as to why you made the promise. Now, you can answer that question by saying, I made this promise due to the fact that I had resolved to live a healthier lifestyle as a non-smoker. In addition to that, I was desperate to make my mother proud of me because she had pleaded with me severally to quit smoking to avoid life-threatening diseases such as lung cancer. Moreover, I was driven by a strong desire to become a good role model for my children. I made this promise due to the fact that I had resolved to live a healthier lifestyle as a non-smoker. In addition to that, I was desperate to make my mother proud of me because she had pleaded with me severally to quit smoking to avoid life-threatening diseases such as lung cancer. Moreover, I was driven by a strong desire to become a good role model for my children. So in that answer, I have given several reasons. I have given a number of reasons as to why I made the promise. Why did I promise my mother on her 50th birthday that I was going to quit smoking after 10 years as a smoker? I made this promise due to the fact that I had resolved. To resolve is to be determined to do something. I had resolved. I had made up my mind, okay? To be resolved to do something is to make up your mind to do something. And with a lot of determination, I had resolved, I had made up my mind to live a healthier lifestyle. Resolved, I had decided. We are aiming for Band 9 here, so we need to use advanced vocabulary. But if you want to use a simpler word, instead of saying resolved, you can say decided. I had decided to live a healthier lifestyle as a non-smoker. A non-smoker is someone who does not smoke. And to introduce the first reason, I use the linking words due to the fact that. Now, due to the fact that simply means because. I made this promise because I had resolved. I made this promise due to the fact that. So, due to the fact that is a linking word that means because. So that is the first reason. Due to the fact that I had resolved to live a healthier lifestyle as a non-smoker. And then I move on to the second reason. I introduce the second reason using the linking words. In addition to that, comma, I was desperate to make my mother proud of me because she had pleaded with me severally to quit smoking to avoid life-threatening diseases such as lung cancer. I was desperate. When you're desperate, it means that you really, really want to do something. Okay? You really want to do something. I was desperate to make my mother proud of me. You make somebody proud of you. Okay? You can say, I'm very proud of my mother. I want to make my mother proud of me. And then I explained the reason why I was desperate to make my mother proud. I introduced the reason using the linking word because. She had pleaded with me. Now, to plead with somebody is to ask somebody repeatedly to stop doing something. She had pleaded with me. She had asked me so many times, please, please. So when you say please, please many times, it means that you're pleading with somebody. She pleaded with me. Severally is a number of times. Severally means a number of times. Many times. Severally simply means many times. To quit smoking. when it comes to smoking, we quit smoking. To quit smoking is to stop smoking. To avoid life-threatening diseases. Life-threatening diseases are diseases that are deadly. They are diseases that could kill you. Life-threatening diseases such as lung cancer. Now, such as is a linking word that simply means for example. And then to introduce the last reason as to why I made the promise, I used the linking word moreover. Moreover, I was driven by a strong desire to become a good role model for my children. I was driven by a strong desire. To be driven by a strong desire means that you have a very strong will or feeling to achieve something. You're determined. Driven by a strong desire. You're very determined to become a good role model. Now, a role model is somebody that you want to copy what they do. And if as a parent you smoke, your children also think that it is good to smoke. So if you want to be a good role model for your children as a smoker, the best thing is to quit smoking and become a non-smoker. So that's how you should answer question C. Why you made the promise, give a number of reasons, introduce your reasons using linking words like I have done. And now let's move on to D. And explain if the promise was easy to achieve. Explain if the promise was easy to achieve. In that question, the examiner wants you to know, did you find it easy to fulfill the promise that you had made? Did you find it easy to do it? Now you can answer that question by saying, to be perfectly honest, quitting smoking was one of the most challenging things I have ever done. From time to time, I had an irrepressible craving to light a cigarette, but in due course, I was successful in kicking the addiction for good. To be perfectly honest, quitting smoking was one of the most challenging things I have ever done. From time to time, I had an irrepressible craving to light a cigarette, but in due course, I was successful in kicking the addiction for good. So in that answer, I have explained that it was not easy for me to achieve the promise I had made. And that's why I began with the words, to be perfectly honest. Now, using that expression, when you're asked for your opinion about something, to be perfectly honest, it makes your vocabulary sound automatically very advanced. So you may want to borrow that expression. To be perfectly honest, quitting smoking was one of the most challenging things. So was it easy? No, it was the most challenging things. That means it was very difficult. If you don't want to say that something is difficult, then you can say it's very challenging. It was one of the most challenging things that I have ever done. And then I explained why. From time to time means that in due time. Sometimes, from time to time simply means sometimes. From time to time, I had an irrepressible craving. An irrepressible craving. Irrepressible means you can't avoid it. You can't suppress it. You get the urge to smoke and you can't suppress that desire. A craving is a desire. A desire is a need to do something. Irrepressible means that it's unavoidable. You can't avoid it. You can't suppress it. And a craving is a very strong desire. So from time to time, that is sometimes, I had an irrepressible craving to light a cigarette. You light a cigarette. You light a cigarette and you put off a cigarette. You light a cigarette with a lighter and you put off the cigarette. But in due course, now those linking words, but in due course, that means with time, as time went by, but in due course, as time went by, I was successful in kicking the addiction for good. Kicking the addiction, it means quitting smoking. Now, smoking is an addiction. An addiction is when you get used to doing something and you can't stop. You can't bring yourself to stop it because your body becomes reliant on that particular substance. Some people get addicted to cigarettes. Some people get addicted to drinking alcohol. So an addiction is something that you can't stop yourself from doing because at some point your body becomes reliant on the substance. For example, in cigarettes, you have nicotine. So your body gets so used to that nicotine that you can't suppress. The desire to light a cigarette becomes irrepressible, meaning that you can't avoid it. Okay? And when you quit smoking, you can say that I kicked the addiction. Okay? I kicked the addiction. I was successful in kicking the addiction for good. For good means for all ways. For good, forever. Okay? For good means forever. I was successful in kicking the addiction for good. Okay? I was successful in stopping smoking for good, forever. Okay? Now there you go. So that's how you're supposed to answer the questions when you get this cue card on describe a time you made a promise to someone. Remember, make sure that when you get your cue card, underline the keywords in each of the questions, like I have done: when, who, what, why, and explain. The next thing is, for each question, just make sure you have 2 to 3 ideas, okay? And use linking words to join your ideas together. But also, if you're aiming for a band 8 and a band 9, then you need to use complex sentences. You need to use compound and complex sentence. A complex sentence has more than 2 linking words. A compound sentence has one linking word. So a compound sentence has 1 linking word and 2 verbs, and a complex sentence has more than 2 linking words and more verbs. For example, see, I made this promise due to the fact that I had resolved to live a healthier life as a smoker. Now, that is a compound sentence. In addition to that, I was desperate to make my mother proud of me because she had pleaded with me severally to quit smoking to avoid life-threatening diseases such as lung cancer. That is a complex sentence, okay? Moreover, I was driven by a desire to become a good role model for my children. That is a compound sentence. So if you're aiming for a band 8, band 9, then you need to be using longer sentences. That is compound and complex sentences. And of course, you need to use them correctly, okay? If you look at the last sample answer, to be perfectly honest, quitting smoking was one of the most challenging things that I have ever done, okay? Compound sentence. From time to time, I had an irrepressible desire or rather craving to light a cigarette, but in due course, I was successful in kicking the addiction for good. Complex sentence. So there you go. That's how you're supposed to answer these questions, and bear in mind the few tips that I have given you. I hope you now know how to use the meaning of the vocabulary that I've underlined in black and how to use that vocabulary during your IELTS speaking part 2 in case you get this particular cue card. Now, remember what I asked you at the beginning. Please give this video a thumbs up. That is really encouraging for me, and also help me to help other people through this video by sharing the video on all your social media platforms. Share it on your Instagram, on your WhatsApp, on on your Facebook, through your Gmail. Just share with other people. Let other people also benefit from this video. That is really going to make our world a better place through sharing, because sharing is caring. Now, thank you very much and see you in our next lesson. Bye bye.